Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? All right, good evening, everybody. It is 6 o'clock, so I think we'll probably get started here in the next minute or two. I appreciate the good turnout tonight. Look forward to having a good conversation. All right. My name is Griffin Bowden. I'm the town engineer for the town of Barnstable. Thank you for all coming out tonight to talk about the Route 28 West Sewer Expansion Project. This is a major project in our comprehensive wastewater management plan. We're really excited to present it this evening and get started on the construction. So this meeting is being recorded and will be available for future viewing on government access. That we always like to have that prompt so that everybody knows that there is a recording. The slides will be posted along with the link to the recording. And a project overview video will be posted on barnstablewaterresources.com. And please hold your questions till the end of the presentation. We will have time for question and answers. We have a bunch of materials in the back where we can have one-on-one conversations about your particular property. But let's get through the presentation first, and then we'll make sure we entertain everybody's question. All right, so our agenda for this evening. First, I'll do a quick CWMP overview. It's important to give the context as to why we're undertaking this effort. Then we'll discuss the project this evening, Route 28 West Sewer Expansion Project, and the details of the project. We'll then have an overview of the sewer connection process, which if you're in this project is a number of years away, but it's important to understand what that looks like. And then we'll also talk about our communications plan and our approach to making sure that everybody stays informed during the process. And then obviously, like I said, we'll have time for questions at the end. So what is the CWMP? The CWMP is a comprehensive wastewater management plan. Everybody's heard the acronym at this point, but that's what it means. And my definition, not the definition, but my definition, is it's a planning document required by regulatory agencies which identifies the town's wastewater needs and establishes a recommended plan for resolving them. That's ultimately what the plan does. In 2021, our plan was regulatorily approved. We're currently in year 5 of the 30-year plan. What is the general problems we're looking to fix with this plan? Biggest one being impaired coastal waters, nitrogen. Looking to remove nitrogen from the environment to make sure that our impaired estuaries, mostly on the south side of the town, have better water quality. We are also addressing other wastewater problems in the town, such as groundwater quality concerns. Our groundwater is our drinking water, so it's critically important to protect that. Pond water quality concerns. There have been a number of problems with ponds in this region, but also in Barnstable over the course of the years, and wastewater improvements can resolve some of these water quality issues. Flood zone and climate change is something that we always have to think about when planning infrastructure. The plan also does have targeted economic development areas, and at the end of the day, we're ensuring that the town maintains regulatory compliance. So what is the nitrogen problem in Barnstable? The nitrogen pollution in Barnstable was documented by the Massachusetts Estuaries Project over the course of the last couple of decades. Barnstable's coastal waters are impaired by nitrogen. The town must meet federally required total maximum daily loads, or TMDLs. That's another acronym that I'll use over the course of the next couple of slides. And ultimately, why are we talking about sewers and wastewater? Well, we're talking about that because 78% of the controllable nitrogen in our environment on Cape Cod comes from septic systems. We're the problem. Current Title V systems are not designed to remove a significant amount of nitrogen. Thus, we need to manage wastewater in a different way. Innovative alternative septic systems, which is something that people hear a lot about, do not currently remove enough nitrogen to achieve TMDLs. Thus, the plan is really based on a sewering and wastewater treatment solution in order to make sure that we achieve the TMDLs and reach regulatory compliance. The graph on the left just kind of shows the controllable nitrogen that enters the environment here on Cape Cod. You'll see the big kind of aqua color is septic systems. It's the biggest part of the pie chart. Some other ones are fertilizer, stormwater, landfill, very small amount, and then wastewater treatment facilities, which do put nitrogen back into the environment, but at a much lower rate. So what is Barnstable's plan? We have a three phases, 10 years each phase, so for a total of 30 years. The total plan proposes 190 miles of new sewers in the community. Approximately just under 12,000 properties will be connected to sewer, new properties. We currently have 4,500 in our existing system when we started the plan, so significantly expanding our sewer reach in the community. The phases of each phase will be executed in multiple smaller projects to really make it more manageable for staff and to be able to coordinate construction. And this is our fourth major sewer expansion project, the Route 28 West Sewer Expansion Project. It's also one of the more foundational projects, as I'll get into in a moment. Sets the basis for really most of what we're doing after this. The program leverages existing infrastructure to maintain, or to the maximum extent possible. We have an existing water pollution control facility or wastewater treatment plant in the community. We're leveraging that asset to the maximum extent possible. We have existing sewers on the eastern half of our community, and principally down Hyannis and Barnstable Village. We're maximizing those existing assets to the maximum extent possible. It incorporates non-traditional projects such as dredging and aquaculture, but doesn't rely on them as the solution. So the program, again, is principally sewer expansion and wastewater treatment, but we do have other types of projects that are targeting nitrogen removal that we will be implementing and testing and hopefully trying to get some credit back towards our sewer expansion program if they actually remove the nitrogen that they're supposed to. Adaptive management is a key element of our program. The plan has to be flexible, has to be able to adapt to changing technologies, changing conditions in the community. Each year we're required to submit a 5-year update to the regulators. We're in the process of preparing that now. The town council did appoint an ad hoc committee to assist the DPW and the town in preparing our adaptive management update. And we also do have to prepare an annual update to the Cape Cod Commission, which documents progress each year. All this can be found on the town's website and are good resources to kind of follow and track the progress in the program. But ultimately, and most importantly, Barnstable's plan achieves the TMDLs. So this is our plan. It's a whole bunch of colors, but ultimately the colors designate the various phases. In red is phase 1, the first 0 to 10 years of the program. A large part of phase 1 being the project we're going to talk about tonight. Phase 2 is the green areas. The yellow is phase 3. And then the various colors out in Katuitt are 3 projects that have been identified. We call them the stages, but they don't have a time associated with them yet. All right, and I alluded to this earlier that each of our phases are broken into smaller projects. So this is that red area on the last slide, broken in our phase 1, broken into the various projects, about the 17 projects that we're going to execute phase 1 in. To date, we have completed 2 projects. The first project being this magenta project here, which was the Strawberry Hill Road Sewer Expansion Project. We've also completed the Route 28 East Sewer Expansion Project, which was kind of the precursor to the project we're talking about tonight. We're under construction on the Centerville Village Sewer Expansion North Phase, which is this green project here. That is actually sewering a portion of Route 28. If you head that way tonight, we'll be under construction out there. Probably try to avoid it. But that's from Finney's Lane to Old Stage, and then that's where this project eventually picks up and continues our western movement. This project's shown in red here. And this project basically brings us down Route 28 from Old Stage to just east of Route 149, as well as some local roads, which we'll get into in a moment. And all these other projects are in various stages of planning internally, and they have a schedule for completion over the next 5 to 7 years. So this project, Route 28 West Sewer Expansion Project, the best way we can describe it is the backbone of the Western Sewer Expansion. Everything else we're going to do relies on this project. So this is the major infrastructure that will go into our roadways, which will then convey the remainder of the wastewater we collect out west to our wastewater treatment plant. This is our first project that will reach the heavily impaired 3 Bays watershed. So this will actually start removing nitrogen from the 3 Bays watershed upon completion, which is a critical milestone for us because it is heavily impaired. It and Pompanesett Bay are the 2 most impaired watersheds that we have. And so ultimately, that's why we got to get out west as part of the project, and that's why it's a critical milestone in our program. It ultimately provides the infrastructure for the eventual sewer expansion in Marston's Mills, Osterville, and Cotuit. It also decommissions a smaller wastewater treatment plant that exists out in Marston's Mills at the Barnstable United Elementary School and connects it to sewer, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So project details, this project includes 5 miles of new sewers to be installed within both state and town roadways. It includes sewer in Route 28 from Old Stage Road to Route 149. That is a state road. So it's under the jurisdiction of Mass DOT, and we have to follow all the Mass DOT permit requirements associated with that. Also, local roads that are being impacted and having sewer installed as part of this project are Osterville West Barnstable Road from Flint Street to Bumps River Road, Bumps River Road from Osterville West Barnstable Road to the Cape Cod Collaborative School, and then Old East Osterville Road, Oldham Road, and Marquand Drive. There are 4 new proposed sewer pump stations as part of this project in order to accommodate this 5 miles of sewer and the further sewer expansion. They're located at the 4 locations identified here. The largest of them is the furthest west, which is the southwest corner of the Marston's Mills Elementary School property, the former Marston's Mills Elementary School property. That pump station, and I'll talk about it in a moment, will ultimately be the engine that conveys the westernmore sewer expansion. The southwest corner of the Cape Cod Collaborative School property, a town-owned parcel located at 181 Oldham Road, and then another pump station located on Osterville West Barnstable Road within, basically in the shoulder across from Concord Lane. And again, we'll have some more visuals on this in a moment. The project ultimately includes 230 parcels to be connected to sewer, which will remove about 4.9 kilograms a day from both the 3 bays and Centerville River combined. The number of parcels being connected as part of this project is a relatively small number in the grand scheme of things. This is more of a project that's foundational in that it sets up the infrastructure for our future projects. So contract. We have gone out to bid on this contract earlier this year. The contract was awarded to the low bidder, Robert B. Auer Company out of Harwich. The contract price is of around $39 million. I will say it was well under the engineer's estimate, actually. So we actually got a pretty good deal on this. I know it sounds like a lot of money. But this was actually well below the estimate, which we were very happy to see. Our design engineer is with us here tonight, Weston Sampson. Mike's in the back in the blue shirt. But they've worked with us along the way here throughout this project, and they've actually helped us with some other projects as well. The contractor has until December 31st, 2028 to complete the contract, and they are anticipating construction starting in February 2026 right now for this work. The work hours are different based on where we are. We have specified the project to be night work entirely for the length of Route 28, so any work within Route 28 is currently specified as night work in order to minimize impacts to traffic. We're taking the same approach currently on the project that's under construction between Finney's Lane and Old Stage Road, and it seems to be going well so far. And on local roadways, the work will be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., which is our typical work hours for this type of project. Work hours may be extended or modified upon approval of DPW and ultimately the DPW director. Work on the state highway also does require approvals from Mass DOT, so any modifications to our terms or our design need to go to Mass DOT for approval as well. So they are a project partner for us. Work restrictions, we don't work on town-observed holidays, and currently the contract specifies no work from Memorial Day to Labor Day. So there will be a summer hiatus for the construction. These restrictions, again, can be modified if they warrant it, but those are currently the restrictions. So what does the construction look like? I think at this point everybody's pretty familiar with what the sewer construction looks like. It's not necessarily fun. It is a major infrastructure project. The sewers require deep excavations with the roadways, and for public safety purposes, it ultimately requires closing the roads. Typically, the sewer excavations are 10 to 15 feet. They go as deep as 25 feet in certain locations. So we're digging very deep holes, and it's a major operation to undertake this work. There are multiple crews in multiple coordinated work zones. So there's not just one crew at any point. There's usually multiple crews executing the contract in multiple different locations in order to complete the job in the amount of time that we've allotted. There's trenching within the roadway as well as the shoulders and sidewalks that's necessary to put all the pipes in the ground. There will be temporary uneven road surfaces, which everybody's seen, right? That kind of comes with this type of construction. Coordinated road closures and detours are necessary for public safety. Again, we want to keep people away from those deep trenches. That's just not a good place to be. We do meet with the police and fire and USPS and schools to coordinate all these closures so that we make sure that folks can get on the bus and folks can get their mail, and emergency services know where there may be limited access to or when they may have to go around to get to another property. So we have a coordination meeting each week with all these various stakeholders to ensure that we're looking out for the public interest. Again, work within Route 28 will occur at night to minimize traffic disruptions. Prior to starting work, we do trim trees above the roadway. As you see in the picture, there's a very large excavator, has a large boom, so we do need to trim some trees above the road. That doesn't mean we're going to go clear cut the shoulder, but we do have to clear some limbs above the road if they're going to impact some of the roadways or some of the construction equipment. There is noise and vibrations from the construction activities. Those are temporary during construction, but those are unavoidable. Fences and landscaping, and et cetera, that is located within the town-owned public right-of-way may need to be relocated. That's information that is included in the homeowner's information that we sent out via mail. But as you see here, there is some impact to the shoulders. Equipment needs to be stored. We do have to dig a little bit within the shoulders in order to install your stubs that are ultimately where we could be connecting. So there is impact outside of the improved roadway. And so there are times where people have kind of crept into the town-owned portion of the roadway, which we call the public right-of-way. And there are times where we have to coordinate relocations of some of that stuff. So examples, this is just some more detail of each of the phases. This is kind of the workflow. We come through and we do some pre-construction activities. There'll be a whole bunch of dig-safe markings to mark out where utilities are. We'll trim trees that we think are going to conflict with the work. You'll start seeing road closures, and then we'll start to excavate and install the actual pipes. That's why we're there, right? And then once we're done with that activity, we'll be temporarily paving the roadway. We allow the temporary paving to be in place for at least 90 days, preferably a winter, to allow for settlement, which is unavoidable. We don't want to do a final paving of a roadway prior to that settlement that's inevitable within the trenches occurring. So that's why you see the temporary paving and the bumpy roadways. That's an unavoidable. No matter how good a trench is compacted or temporary asphalt's placed, there will be undulations that occur, and we want that. We want that to play out over the course of that first season, and then ultimately this is the final product, right? So at the end of the day, we have a full curb-to-curb paving of each roadway that's impacted. So before I get into the next piece of this, I always like to do an overview of how a sewer system works, a really basic overview. So I consider a sewer system, I think the easiest way to explain a sewer system is really as an extension of your plumbing. So with your plumbing in your house, you flush your toilet, water goes down, goes through a series of pipes, and currently if you're connected to a septic system, it runs out there and it goes into a tank. Well, what we're doing here is we're building pipes within the roadway that pipe will eventually just continue into. And we try to install these pipes under the roadways to maximize the flow of gravity. So we want them to slope down so that the water runs really until it can't run any further. And at that point, I get the question a lot, why do we need these pump stations? Well, we've run out of gravity at that point, or it's become too deep to the point where we can't install pipes that deep in a reasonable manner. And at that point, we need to overcome gravity. So there may be a low point here, or it may be that we've just had a really long run. We've gotten very deep. But at a certain point, we get too deep to the point where we have to install a pump station, typically at low points. What a pump station is it's ultimately a tank that the wastewater comes into that has a pump somewhere, whether it's in a building or in the tank, which overcomes gravity. So it pumps the wastewater that's in the tank through what we call a force main, which is was a pressurized pipe. And then it goes to wherever the receiving point is. Ultimately, the wastewater treatment plant, sometimes they pump to another pump station and then to another wastewater, but ultimately they go to the wastewater treatment plant. So that's ultimately kind of we call it the 101 of how a sewer system works, and I think this graphic kind of depicts that well. So with that context, where are the 4 pump stations that I referenced earlier? This is kind of an overview map that kind of shows roughly where they are. Pump station number 1 being at the old Marston's Mills Elementary School. Pump station 2 being at the Cape Cod Collaborative School property. Pump station 3 being at a town-owned parcel located at 181 Oldham Road. And parcel 4 being in the right-of-way of Osterville West Barnstable Road across from Concord Lane, which is right here. So I'm going to do a quick overview of each of the pump stations. There are some renderings in the back, but we'll have a rendering here as well for each of them, just so you get an idea, because these ultimately are, all the sewer pipes end up just being under the ground, and we end up paving the road, and once we're done with construction, you just see a new paved road. But these are the thing that you see permanently, right? So we like to make sure that we show the thought and care that we've put into the design of these. So the Marston's Mills pump station is ultimately going to be the second largest pump station in our plan, because it's conveying all that water from the western part of town. This is a critical piece of infrastructure to facilitate the remainder of our plan. This is the style. If I want to nerd out for a minute, the style of the pump station is a suction lift pump station, which means it has a pump that is higher than where the water is and a pipe that comes down that pumps the sewage up and out. It basically allows us not to have to dig as big of a deep hole. So there's savings associated with the excavation there. The size of the site is approximately 1/3 of an acre, so that's the cleared area that's necessary to facilitate this. There is a building proposed here. It's styled after the building that we recently completed construction on at the intersection of Route 28 and Finney's Lane. Similar in appearance, about half the size. This is 20 by 18. It's a little less than half. It's a little more than half the size. The one at Finney's Lane is about 30 by 35 for reference, so it's kind of 1.5. The site will include a backup generator, some below-grade utilities, landscaping, as well as a retaining wall. I'll show that in a moment. I talked earlier about the criticality of this infrastructure. This map, I think, conveys that. The yellow area are all the parcels in our plan that eventually will be served by this piece of infrastructure that we're installing. So every parcel in yellow there, which is basically all of Marston's Mills, all of Katuitt, half of Osterville, will go through this pump station to eventually be conveyed back to the wastewater treatment plant. It's about 3,400 parcels, roughly 750,000 gallons per day of wastewater will ultimately go through this piece of infrastructure. This is the site. Doesn't give you a good representation of where it is, but I'll try. So this is going down Route 28 heading westbound. This would be the intersection with 149 here at the bottom of the hill. So as you're driving that way, you look, there's a wooded area that actually has a pretty significant topographic change. It's just a pretty significant hill there. That's the location for the proposed site. And this is the site plan. I'll quickly go over what it's depicting. So this is a driveway that would be coming in off of Route 28, which is this area here. Are you guys able to see this laser pointer? Or do you want me to go over and point? Because I can do that too. This is the building here. This area here is all just a paved area for trucks to get in and for parking. There is a retaining wall that's proposed around the perimeter of the site, because each of these lines here that you see is a foot of elevation change. As I said, it's kind of cutting into a hill there, so we do need a retaining wall around it, and we'll show a rendering in a moment what that looks like, around it to facilitate the site development. The utilities are kind of hidden in the back, so there's a generator proposed here. So that's the site arrangement that we're proposing for this. And this is the rendering of the station. So as I noted, there's a retaining wall proposed to kind of cut into the hill. I noted that this is like the Finney's Lane station. It looks a lot like it, but it's a lot smaller. It's a lot smaller in footprint. And the reason we were able to do that is because it's that suction lift station. So with the Finney's Lane station, we had a different technology by choice because it was a larger station. And the pumps are all inside the building, and the wet well, which is where the tank goes, is actually inside the building too. So the building actually has to come all the way out here. This pad here is where all the wastewater is below the ground. So we don't build a building over the pad, which ultimately saves us some money, saves us some space. We build a smaller building. So that was one of the technological changes we made with this particular site. Second pump station is the Bumps River Road pump station is what we're calling it. This is located at the Cape Cod Collaborative School, which is in this location on Bumps River Road. So the entrance to the Cape Cod Collaborative off of Bumps River Road would be right here. We're kind of significantly west of that, on the edge of on the property line. This is a town-owned property. So this would be the location on that property that this is proposed. Same technology pump station, much small, about half the size of the land disturbance, about 0.15 acres. The building's similar in size. It's 17 feet by 20 feet. It doesn't include a driveway, a backup generator, below-grade utilities, and some landscaping. Again, going back to why is this important, this pump station will serve this red area, which is effectively all of Osterville, down into Osterville, downtown Osterville. About 1,000 parcels and 330 gallons per day at the full build-out. This is the site. Doesn't give you a lot of representation, but this is the location. Currently a wooded location in the proposal here. So again, this is the proposed building. This area here being a proposed driveway. This kind of funky shape here is the proposed clearing needed to build the site. The utilities, the generator would be kind of hidden in the back behind the building. We propose some screening on the west side, as there is a residential property in this area, which is set back a little ways, but we did provide some additional clearing. This is the rendering of the site. So similar appearance. Third pump station's Oldham Road. There is a town-owned parcel here at 181 Oldham Road that the town has owned for a number of years for some reason, but we were able to leverage that as it happens to be at a low point on the roadway. Again, this is the same technology station. The disturbance area is quite small. It's less than 1/10 of an acre. There is a wetland in the rear of this property, so we had to minimize the impact to the site to the maximum extent possible, and then seek approval from the Conservation Commission to install this infrastructure here. So we tried to minimize the footprint to protect that wetland resource as much as possible. The building's about 15 by 12. Again, it includes a site driveway, a backup generator, et cetera. Serves this blue area, so we're getting a little bit smaller in area being served, but also it's a fairly significant area. There's a number of residential neighborhoods in this location. This is the site. So if you're driving down Oldham Road, you come down to the low point. There's this wooded lot right here. This is the town-owned property in question. This is the site plan. Again, this is kind of zoomed in, but you see back here, this is the wetland I was talking about. This is Oldham Road. The building is right in this location, a small driveway. Tried to minimize the footprint to the maximum extent possible. The other thing we did is we looked at all the homes in this area. There are homes all along Oldham Road, and we centered this building in between the opposite property line to kind of try to keep it out of direct line of sight from the buildings across the street, and we also maximize distance away from the neighboring property to the maximum extent possible. And this is what it'll look like. So again, similar appearance and similar aesthetics. Last pump station, this one's a little different. This pump station is proposed within the shoulder of Osterville West Barnstable Road, north of Route 28, across from Concord Lane. This is a submersible style pump station, which is basically a below grade tank that has the pumps at the bottom of it, as opposed to that suction that I was talking about before. There's no building here based on the type of infrastructure we're proposing. The site will include a gravel kind of parking area, basically an improved shoulder, which is effectively what it looks like today. A backup generator, and an electrical cabinet. This pump station will serve the area in orange, kind of goes up to the Schubel Pond area, And this is the location currently. So this is if you're coming down Concord Drive, approaching Osterville West Barnstable Road. This is the shoulder. There is a slight bend in the road at this location. This is the shoulder where we're siting the station. This is the layout. So in this case, the pump station is this big circle here. This is all below grade with just a hatch. And then there's some electrical equipment here will be protected by bollards and a gravel driveway here. There will be opportunities for some screening upon completion of construction. This is not a rendering of the pump station, but this is the most recent similar type of pump station that we've installed. This is on Strawberry Hill Road, just north of Craigville Beach Road. So this is actually the pump station, and then this is the electro cabinet and the generator here. So this is the type of infrastructure that you will see at this location. We always want to answer the questions about about operation of these pump stations and our system as a whole. The pump stations are regularly monitored by our crews. We have staff working 24/7 and on call 24/7. They are identifiable in a town pickup truck when they have to come to the site. Everybody knows the big red trucks with the seal, right? So those are what we arrive in. They do have to come out and do visual inspections occasionally, relatively frequently. Not multiple times a day, but occasionally. At some locations, it's once a day, and at some locations, it's every other day or every third day. However, each station is monitored remotely, so all of our operators have cell phones that are town issued, and they're all connected to the pump stations. And so if there is something that goes wrong at the station, there are a number of alarms and sensors within the station. All of our operators and our division supervisor will get a text that says, there's something at this station you need to go check out. So we're always in close contact with the station and can quickly respond to anything that could go wrong. Periodic maintenance to service the components is necessary. You know, we have a regular maintenance schedule to make sure that we get the maximum life out of our equipment. These are mechanical systems, so they do need to be maintained. The generators on site are exercised once weekly. People often ask how much noise is this going to make? That's it, really. You hear the generator when it runs once a week, and then if there's a power outage, it's going to run constantly like, you know, other people's generators will in the area. The landscaping at each of the sites will be maintained by town crews. And odor and noise are generally not an issue when these stations are properly functioning. We generally do not have issues with these pump stations. They are not wastewater treatment plants. They are conveyance mechanisms. They're a tank that we ultimately pump from. So ultimately, odor is generally not an issue. So I did mention this earlier. I'll touch on it briefly. We have a wastewater treatment plant, a smaller wastewater treatment plant that serves the two schools, West Villages and Barnstable United, up off Osterville West Barnstable Road. It also serves a housing development just adjacent. This has been here since the early 90s. The town maintains this, and it's approaching the end of its design life and ultimately is due for some significant rehabs. And we took a look at this and ultimately decided that the best solution for this asset would be to decommission it, since we're installing sewers going by the property anyway, connect it to the sewer system and manage it in a centralized treatment method. It's more expensive for us to treat here. It's more expensive for the users, actually, to pay their sewer bills who utilize this asset. So it makes a ton of sense for us to decommission this. So this is part of the project that is being put forward. So there's some considerations associated with that. Work on the school property will be restricted to summer months and will be coordinated directly with the school department. We've had a lot of conversations with the schools over the years about this project. We've actually had discussions with the school committee about the project as well. Obviously, we don't want to be doing this construction on the site when children are in session at the school, so all the work's restricted to summer months. We do have to, basically the work out there is to install a new sewer that intercepts the station, which is this building right here. This is Barnstable United. West Villages is up here. There's a building there that you probably wouldn't even notice if you were out there. You wouldn't know it was a wastewater treatment plant. But that's where the wastewater is treated from for these two schools. We have to intercept the flow that goes into it, install new pipes out to Osterville West Barnstable Road, this red, ultimately showing kind of how we're going to do that. Once the new sewers are completed, the wastewater treatment plant would be decommissioned. All the equipment within it would be removed. A new slab would be installed. It would basically be left as a building, a conditioned building that doesn't have a use. We've had some conversations with the school. They are in need of storage. There's a conditioned building there. There seems to be some synergies there. We think that's probably what's ultimately going to happen to the building. We'll continue to have conversations with the school committee about that. But want to continue the use of this asset since there's a building there that's structurally sound and there's a need for it. All right, so that's the technical side of things. I'm going to turn the next portion of the presentation over to my colleague, Kelly Colopy, who is our communications manager, to talk about the sewer connection process and communications. Here you go.
All right, thank you. So as Griffin noted, my name is Kelly Colopy. I am the communications manager for the Department of Public Works. And while the intent of this meeting is really to make sure that everyone is comfortable and informed about the upcoming sewer construction, we certainly want to touch upon the sewer connection process. Because if you are identified to receive sewer as part of the Route 28 West project, you will be mandated to connect to sewer through the Board of Health. So we boiled this down into 8 simple steps. You also all on your seats have our full homeowners sewer connection guide, which is about I think over 30-page guide at this point that walks you through all of these steps in much more detail. It also talks about a number of different resources, financial resources, folks from both the town as well as the county's Aqua Fund that you can reach out to. So I highly encourage you to spend some time looking through that guide, but I will do my best to sort of give you a high-level overview over these next few slides. So the first step is our pre-construction outreach, and this includes our sewer connection form. So I'm hoping that the majority of you are here because you received a certified mailing from the town of Barnstable. That project notification, we send that out at the start of each construction project. It's quite lengthy. If you received it, you notice there's a couple of different documents in there, and one is your sewer connection form. That is really your chance as a property owner to give us some information about your individual property. Thinking about your future sewer connection and where you would ideally prefer to connect on your property line. Is there landscaping that you want to avoid? Are you planning an addition, or do you have a patio or a deck that you don't want to disturb as part of your connection? All of that information is really important to us. So we look for that feedback in that sewer connection form, and we have resources available to help you. Our sewer connection program manager, Ansley, is fantastic. She is available to talk through the sewer connection form at really any time, as are a number of our members of our project team, many of who are here this evening. But that sewer connection form is really important. So we send that out as part of that certified mailing ahead of construction, but we don't stop there. We will continue to reach out. So if we do not receive that sewer connection form back, you'll likely hear from us a couple more times throughout construction. Our on-site construction inspectors will knock on doors. They'll leave door hangers as we're approaching your property throughout the construction process, because we really do want that feedback from you. It's important to us. If we do not receive it, we will use the information we have available to determine the best possible location for that sewer stub to be left on your property line. So if you don't return it, it doesn't mean you won't be connecting to sewer, but it's certainly valuable information to make sure that it's a dialogue and a conversation that we have with you. So then we'll go through 2+ years of sewer construction. You'll have various impacts throughout the project. Doesn't mean we'll be impacting in front of your property for the entirety of the project, but that is the length of the entire sewer connection or the sewer expansion project. That is the town sewer construction process. And then at the end of the project, after we've gone through testing and verification, and we're essentially in what we call our project closeout, you will hear from a number of different departments in town. You'll first hear from the Department of Public Works. Yet again, we'll send what we call sort of our courtesy mailer that construction is now complete and that we are handing the project over to our colleagues at the Barnstable Health Division and Board of Health, as well as the town's finance office, specifically the tax collector's office. We'll include a bunch of different contacts for you and let you sort of give you an idea of what the timeline is for when you'll receive additional communications, including your mandate from the Barnstable Board of Health to connect to sewer. Once you receive that official notification from the Barnstable Board of Health, you will then need to hire a licensed sewer installer. In those sewer connection guides that you have on your seats, we have our most recent list of licensed sewer installers. These are all installers who have been vetted, who have the proper insurance, and have been doing and performing this work regularly in town. We add to this list regularly, so there's a digital version that's available on the Barnstable Water Resources website, as well as the Town of Barnstable website. But we do make sure that we have a printed version in our connection guides for easy reference. You'll then work with your licensed sewer installer like you would any other home improvement project. That's how we like to think of this. They will design the connection for your property, and they will apply for all the necessary permits and really work with our sewer connection program manager to facilitate and line up that work. We will have a DPW inspector on site, and essentially their role is to ensure that construction specifications for the town's sewer connections are met. So essentially what your private installer is doing meets the specifications for our town sewer system. We do not do any work on private property. That's all handled by your licensed sewer installer. That same licensed sewer installer can also facilitate your septic abandonment process. So we often get asked, what happens to my septic system once I'm connected to sewer? In most cases, the Board of Health will just allow you to fill it and crush it in place. If you are planning a major addition or alterations to your property, it may be beneficial for you to remove that septic system, but those are really conversations we urge you to have with the Health Division, as they are the governing authority over septic systems in town. But know that that same licensed sewer installer can do that as part of your sewer connection process. And then lastly, once you are connected to town sewer, you will receive a sewer service bill. So this is billed like another typical utility bill. It'll be billed at the same frequency in which you receive your water bill, and it will be based on your water usage. So I did mention we have our homeowner sewer connection guide. We have printed copies that are literally fresh off the press as of today. We picked up our latest edition. We've made some tweaks and upgrades to it just from the conversations we have regularly with members of our community and the folks who have gone through the sewer connection process already. And then we've added, like I said, additions to the licensed sewer installer list and some new information regarding some of the various financing options that are available to help with sewer connection costs. So this document is available digitally on Barnstable Water Resources always. And then we have a number of printed copies. My fantastic communications assistant, Chris, who's in the back, has put together quite a distribution network. So we have copies available here at the Adult Community Center, at various town hall offices, at MEA, at the Centerville and Osterville Library, I think West Barnstable Community Building as well. There are quite a few different locations, and we're continuing to expand on where we have those guides available. So I mentioned connection costs. The guide will break out the 3 costs that every property owner is essentially responsible for throughout sewer connection. And this is really geared towards those residential property owners. Condo complexes, apartment communities are treated a little bit differently. So we certainly urge you to reach out to us so we can have those conversations on a one-on-one basis. But essentially, everyone who is connecting to sewer is going to be responsible for a sewer assessment, the sewer connection that occurs on their private property, and then the utility billing that I mentioned at the end of the first slide. So your sewer assessment was voted on by Town Council to be capped at $10,000 per sewer unit. Sewer units are calculated, as we have here, either a residential sewer unit, which is essentially based on the number of dwelling units, or if it's a commercial sewer unit, it's based on the water usage and sewer flow proposed for your property under Title V regulations. These sewer assessments can be financed as part of your quarterly tax bill. So I mentioned that at the end of sewer construction, you would hear from a number of different departments. The Treasurer Tax Collector's Office will reach out with an estimated sewer assessment because while the sewer assessments are capped at $10,000, in some cases they could come out to less. It really is dependent on the number of parcels who are benefiting from the infrastructure and the total cost of all the infrastructure being installed. But the Treasurer Tax Collector's Office will reach out and ask if you wish to pay in full or if you would like to finance your sewer assessment on your quarterly tax bill, which you can do at 2% above whatever the town's current borrowing rate is. The sewer connection on private property, as I noted, is mandated by the Barnstable Board of Health. They will essentially issue a mandate to connect with currently a 6-month timeline. There are some extensions that can be offered by the Barnstable Health Division, Primarily, you can get an additional 6 months if you have a contract with a licensed sewer installer and you're really just beholden to their schedule. So that's one thing to keep in mind, and certainly a conversation to have with the health division when it comes time for you to connect to sewer. Those costs can be, for the actual sewer construction and connection on your property, can be financed through a number of different programs. Really, the primary resource for our residents is the county's Barnstable Aqua Fund, Barnstable County Aqua Fund. They have a number of different options for 0 and 2% interest rates for betterment loans, and those 0 and 2% are the only interest rates available to new sewer connections. Commercial properties, such as condominiums and apartment communities, are also do have the ability to tap into some of the lower interest rates at 4%. They have a really well-capitalized program. We speak with a loan specialist from the Aqua Fund on a quarterly, if not more frequent basis. So they are very much aware of how many sewer connections we anticipate welcoming on a yearly basis or more, depending upon our project schedule. And we stay in, like I said, very close contact with them. And then the utility billing I mentioned earlier, based upon your water usage, will be billed at the same frequency in which you receive your annual or your water bill. So for some it's quarterly, some it's 2 times a year. And that is billed separately from your water bill. So just keep that in mind as well. That will come from our water pollution control facility. And then I've said it a lot, but BarnstableWaterResources.com really is your one-stop shop for all things water quality related. So this website really started as a standalone site to help communicate what we're here to talk about tonight, sewer expansion. But we have really broadened the content offerings on this site. So we have a lot of our non-traditional projects on here. We have a whole water quality section that breaks down all of our ponds and lakes monitoring and current projects, as well as our estuary and embayment monitoring as well. We've added, even this screen grab's old because we've added not just coastal resiliency, but drinking water. So if you have been tuned into some of the more recent projects, we just recently broke ground on the new Straightway water treatment facility. So we now have drinking water projects up on this website as well. And also a repository of all of our reports and documents. We file an annual report for our comprehensive wastewater management plan every year. You can access all of those. You can access all of the documentation behind the comprehensive wastewater management plan, as well as a lot of the documents that you see sort of on our promotional table and on your seats today. I also highly encourage you to sign up for the alerts, because during the summer months when we do our more aggressive water quality testing, we do post all of our beach water quality status updates on this website. So just very briefly, being cognizant of time, in what ways are we going to reach out to you? How can you learn more? We're constantly expanding how we reach out to our community. I personally love this setting. I love in-person meetings. I brief a lot of civic associations. So we're always willing and welcoming of speaking with residential associations, homeowners associations. But we're also going to reach out to you in sort of those traditional outlets as well. So I mentioned the mail, certified mailing, that project notification at the start of a construction project, but we'll also do some standard mail if warranted throughout the project. We did this frequently with the Centerville Village North project, just to alert folks that maybe they're not receiving sewer, but they live along the construction route and might be impacted by some of the construction and road closures. So we do use mail to notify folks of just changes in traffic management on occasion if it warrants that. And then I mentioned, of course, obviously, the sewer connection form, and then meeting notifications. We have started doing a lot of snail mail for meeting notices, because we found that it's reaching people more than sometimes the digital forums are. But we do, of course, love digital. It's a great way to get information out there in real time. So we have a number of different newsletters in town. There is the town's Barnstable e-news, which is sent on Fridays. But we also have our Barnstable Water Resources newsletter, which is sent on Thursdays. And that's really anything and everything to do with water quality projects and initiatives happening in town. We also have a fantastic mobile app for the town of Barnstable, where we'll post more of those real-time updates if there's a more emergent road closure or a change in a traffic management pattern, or meeting notifications and reminders. That's a great place to get those real-time updates. Also, the beach quality status updates get posted on the app as well. And then of course, various websites. I mentioned Barnstable Water Resources, which is really, I again think, your cornerstone piece for all information regarding the CWMP. And then of course, we'll do those project meetings, association meetings, and I mentioned the door-to-door outreach. We do that frequently. We have on-site construction inspectors throughout the entirety of our construction projects. So they'll go knock on doors and try to help you put a face to a name so that you understand the folks who are working there on the project route. And then lastly, I mean, this is kind of redundant. We talked about all the resources, but of course the connection guide. We also have single sheet sewer connection process documents. So kind of that slide I showed you with the 8 simple steps, we have translated that into Portuguese and Spanish, and we do send those out with our project notification at the end of construction. So certainly looking to make more translated materials available, but those are available right now, and we do have some on the back table if you're looking for just a quick one-sheeter. And then I mentioned a number of different town resources, just some visuals to help you recognize some of these great resources that we have, the town e-news, the town mobile app, and of course Barnstable, the town of Barnstable social media. And then we also have a series of videos on the town's YouTube channel that we've embedded in the Barnstable Water Resources website as well. There's a number of different videos that walk through the sewer connection process, what to expect during sewer construction, and then even just some of our recent past public meetings and presentations. And then I noted that Barnstable Water Resources, not only do we have our own website, but we've recently, as of this summer, launched our own social media. In a world where people are constantly scrolling, we found it's really important to make sure that we get our information out there everywhere. So we take a little bit more of a friendly approach here, more user-friendly tips and tricks to help you, make improvements on your own property and help contribute to healthy, clean water across the community. And then lastly, just a quick plug, I mentioned in-person meetings. We do have a standing sewer connection workshop that we perform here at the Barnstable Adult Community Center. And this is obviously geared towards the BACC's community, folks who might not be as familiar or comfortable using digital tools and websites. It's really driven by who's in the room. They can ask individual questions about their property, be able to get some insight as to where they may fall on the plan. So it's a little bit more of a holistic workshop, but we do go through the sewer connection guide in great detail. These meetings are recorded now as well, and they're always posted on barnstablewaterresources.com as well as shared through town channels. And we do have one coming up at the beginning of December if you're interested in either joining us live or watching the video shortly after it's recorded. With that, I'll turn it back over to Griffin to talk about our project team.
All right, I promise we're almost done. So I just want to make sure I give a plug to the project team. You've heard from me and Kelly, but there's a lot of people involved in making a project like this happen. A number of them are in the back. So I'll ask you all to take a look in the rear. In the white shirt back there is Tyler Gilman. He is the project manager. He is our senior project manager for our CWMP construction projects. He's the man running the contract and making sure that we're getting what we pay for. The 3 individuals to the right of Tyler there, our left. On the left is Mike Paulin. He's the project manager from Weston Sampson. He's our design consultant who we retained to design this project. With him tonight are Paul and Maria, who are also on their design team, important members, and we consider them an extension of our team. Also, Chris is back there. Chris is our communications assistant. Helps Kelly and all of us with communicating what we're doing. I will also acknowledge Libby, who is sitting there trying to hide. She is our communications intern who done a fantastic job for us. So with that, that's the end of our presentation. We're happy to entertain questions as long as we need to. I'll ask that if you have questions about your individual property, it's going to be a lot easier for us to have those conversations in the back. Because we have the resources to go look at your individual property. But if you have questions about the project or impacts or anything else, feel free to open the floor. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to find out what to expect on the annual cost on the sewer. You mentioned it tied to the water use.
Correct.
So if my water bill is $600 a year, what is the ratio?
Yeah, I can't do the ratio for you, but what I can say is that the average annual residential cost is about like $450 a year, and it's ultimately billed at the same iteration that your water bill is. It's based on your water usage. There is an opportunity to deduct your water usage for irrigation. So you can install what's called a deduct meter, and we basically subtract the amount of water that goes out to your irrigation so that you don't get billed for that because it's not going into the sewer system. A lot of times that's what drives a lot of the water usage on residential properties. So you may have higher water bills as a result. That's a really good question. So this project is out in the COMM district. We are having conversations with COMM about who will be installing the meter. We've had this program installed for a number of years in Hyannis and Barnstable, where we've had sewer for a number of years. The water system does install the meters. You pay a fee to the water system and they send somebody out to do it. We're working to set up a similar program with COMM, but we haven't been out in the COMM district with sewer, so we're kind of working through that. Yes, sir.
We have a deed restriction on the house that limits the number of bedrooms based on our septic system. Will that automatically fall off as a result of being connected? Or do we have to go through an additional process to make that?
That would be a legal question that I can't answer for you. If it's deed restricted, putting my lawyer hat on, I think it probably would stay because it's ultimately a deed. But I would defer to a lawyer there. I would ultimately defer to a lawyer. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Are you guys going to bring the sewer connection to the property lines, or does the contractor have to come to whatever side of the street that you're going to be putting your main in?
Yeah, so we install the sewer main. The question is, where does the property stub come to? So yeah, so we install the sewer main within the roadway. At each property, we're going to install a stub to which is a connection point for each individual. That will go to the edge of the public right-of-way, which is beyond the improved roadway into the shoulder, wherever the actual property line starts. That's where we'll leave, and that's where you'll connect to. Yes, sir.
How much of this project is relying on government funding? Is the government involved with this at all right now?
Yeah, so we do have financing offered through the Clean Water Trust, which is ultimately the way wastewater projects like this access federal and state money. There's money that's allocated in Washington and in Boston every year for clean water projects. It gets given to the DEP. They have what's called the Clean Water Trust, which manages these types of projects and the access to these funds. They are low interest loans, they're not grants. However, they do have a bucket for principal subsidy to the contracts, which is how we ultimately get the grants through those programs. So they're low interest loans with principal subsidy to kind of offset some of the cost. Yes, sir.
Administration in Washington, that's not.
It's not. It's managed by the DEP, the local DEP. So right now there's been no impact. We were not anticipating any impact. But you know, we'll keep an eye on that. Yes, ma'am.
If they come upon aging water lines while they're doing sewer, does that increase the expense to the residents if they have to replace that?
So if it's on your property and it conflicts with the sewer installation, it may. The sewer connection on your similar to the sewer connection on your property, the water service outside of the road is typically owned by the property owner. If there's a problem, it may be the time to fix it because you're going to have a contractor at the site. However, when we install the sewer subs, we study where your water is located because we want to keep sewer away from water as a general principle. So typically, the sewer stub wouldn't be located in extremely close proximity to the water such that it impacts it for the physical installation. But if you have an issue with the water on your property, it may be a good time to address that.
What I meant is, like, say there's a street where there's an aging water.
Okay. So you're talking about the water pipe that's out in the street? Yeah, okay. So in Barnstable, we have multiple water districts, right? This project's entirely within the COMM water district, which is not a town entity. We do coordinate very closely with the COMM as part of these projects, and they may be making some improvements, kind of piggybacking off of our project, but we don't contract their work out for them because they're a separate entity. Yes.
If I have an
Oh.
unoccupied dwelling, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
If I have an unoccupied dwelling that I will have to install sewer in.
Yeah.
It's unoccupied, will I still be getting a base amount on my bill quarterly or monthly, even though I'm not really using sewer?
I believe similar to like a water bill, there would be like a system account fee. I don't know what it is off the top of my head though. Back to you. Yep.
Couple questions.
Sure.
First, I was looking at the map. So has this Route 28 project always been part of the Phase 1?
Yes.
It's always been on Phase 1?
Yes.
Okay. The February 26th start to December 28th completion date, is that only for the main line? You're not talking all the side streets that go to all the houses?
We're talking the project that we identified this evening. So Route 28, Ospel Responsible Road, Bumps River Road, Oldham Road, all the roads that we identified. That's the construction window for the contract. So that's
All the side roads?
not the additional side roads. They'll be done in an additional phase of the program. Correct.
And then, so included in Phase 1 is the Great Marsh area, Holly Point, Shoot Flying Hill Road, Huckins Neck Road, Finney's Lane.
Yes.
They've all been waiting for years at this point to be part of Phase 1. Is that construction still going to be going on and taking place in those neighborhoods being connected while this phase is being done? Or is this phase taking place of all of those houses that are still waiting?
To answer your question directly, yes. So as I alluded to, I'm going to go back a number of slides here. So give me a second. So these are all the projects, right? These are some of the projects that you just talked about. So we have about 17 projects identified in Phase 1. There will be multiple projects ongoing at any particular time. So this Route 28 West Sewer Expansion Project will be ongoing. We're going out to bid on the Finney's Lane Sewer Expansion Project later this year. Next year, we'll be going out to bid on the Long Pond Sewer Expansion Project. The Great Marsh Project is programmed the following year. So we will be going out, continuous to go out to bid and start the construction on those neighborhood projects to continue to build off of this main infrastructure that we're installing.
Okay, so when the 0 to 10, is it 0 to 10 that we're on right now?
Correct.
That 0 started when? What year?
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Correct.
So we're 5 years
Correct.
into Phase 1 currently.
Correct.
So there are areas that probably won't make it.
The construction will be commencing for all of those projects within the first 10 years. Correct.
They'll at least start
Correct.
in the neighborhoods, not just the main line.
That's correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Yes, sir.
So as you finish the construction part, I guess spring of 28, February of 28, is that where you're?
We're anticipating the end of calendar year 2028 for the completion. Yes.
So there'd be no connections until that point?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, we would anticipate the spring of 2029 as the likely connection time frame.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Kind of asked my question, like, I live on, my side yard is 28. and
Yeah.
The project is sticking right to Route 28.
Yeah.
I'm not going down, say, Brigantine Avenue. But my house is on Brigantine Avenue.
So why don't we look at in the rear at your particular property, because there are a number like that, and there's decisions that were made during the design as to why. Yes, sir.
You were talking about the project brings the stub up to the property line.
Yeah.
Where that is part of the initial discussion with the property owners? Like,
Where we horizontally put it along your frontage. That's what the information we're trying to get from the sewer connection form that we send out. If you have a preference. Otherwise, we'll look at the information we have about your property, see where your septic tank is located, try to get it as close to it as possible. But there may be a reason why you don't want it there. For instance, you may want to put an addition on that side. You maybe have a tree you really like that you don't want to impact. There's a number of reasons why somebody would have a unique location that they would want to go. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a trustee of Mark Pond Association. We're a private road actually.
Yes.
Who would I speak to about any special issues that
You can-
arise with that? Because we actually, our property goes
Yes.
through the woods to.
It does,
28. So
yeah,
when you talk about
yeah.
property line connection, it's a little more, it's a little bit.
Why don't we have a discussion with anybody who lives on Marquand Drive, because it is a little bit different than all the other projects we're talking about? Oh, we would be happy to come to the association meeting as well. Absolutely, yeah. But we can walk you through the details. Yep. Yes, sir.
How do you determine public right-of-way for an individual property?
We survey it. Yeah, yep. So we ultimately have a survey of all the public right-of-ways within the project boundary. So there are contractors expected to stake where the limit of it is and bring the stub to that location.
Do we have access to that?
We can share that. The plans show them, so we can share that information. Yeah. Yes.
One of the slides you showed all the equipment that's necessary to do this, and on Finney some of the roads we're talking about here are pretty narrow.
Yep.
Do you see abutting streets being used for storage of equipment and parking and all that kind of thing as well? And is that part of the?
I'm going to repeat the question because this is an important question. Yep.
So is that part of the notification process that says we're going to be coming down the street, there'll be storage cars, whatever it is, so that's part of the communication?
Yeah, so the question is really related to, I'll call it the construction footprint, for lack of a better term. So obviously, when we come down with a bunch of equipment, it's got to go somewhere at the end of the day. There is the need to store it, and one of the points that were pointed out was that some of these roads are pretty narrow. So we'll have to come up with a logistics plan with our contractor. We generally allow them to place equipment within the public right-of-way. Because there frankly is generally not other locations to put it. But we do require them to have a centralized staging yard where they stage equipment and material and stuff like that. They have to have a construction trailer. It's not going to be in a residential location. It's going to be somewhere that's kind of off-site. But we do have to kind of road by road decide where equipment's going to live at the end of the night. And that does change as we go up the street. As you'll see as you drive down like Shoot Flying Hill Road right now, which we're under construction on, there is equipment stored on the side of the road. There is more space there than a lot of the residential roads, so there may have to be a different approach. A lot of times the contractors will talk to some of the residences too and find somebody who's willing to have a portion of the property utilized. And that frankly is one of the contractor's obligations under the contract. But we also monitor it to make sure it doesn't get out of control. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
How many pump stations are there in use now, and how many do we expect to be after this is all done?
Really fantastic question.
Where does all of this go? I'm sorry, I was late getting here.
That's okay, that's okay. The question was how many pump stations exist now, how many are we proposing, and where does it all go? First answer to the question, we have about 30 pump stations right now in town. The program anticipates approximately 60 more over the course of the 30-year program. We roughly plan on one every 2.5 to 3 miles because that's just roughly how it ends up working out. It's really dictated on the topography, but we're thinking there's probably going to be 60 more of various sizes. These are all large ones for our system. We don't need these shed buildings everywhere. Sometimes we install them in settings so that they're more aesthetically pleasing, and sometimes we need them just due to the size. In this case, it's really more due to the size. But yes, there are a number of them, and there are a number of them proposed. What was the last question? Oh, where does it all go? It goes to our wastewater treatment plant on Bursis Way in Hyannis. Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the $10,000, when does that get billed? Like, when we put a system in a previous property, if someone chose not to connect, then a lien was put against their property and they couldn't sell it until that was satisfied.
Yep.
So what's the process there?
Yeah, so the question was, when does the assessment get billed to the property owner? So you will receive your estimated assessment upon completion of the project, and then you'll ultimately receive your notification of the final assessment shortly thereafter, roughly a few months after we complete construction and close out the project. It'll be on the similar time frame as to when you receive your notification to connect. It's right around that time frame. So expect for this project the spring of 2029.
And it sounded like they had no choice but to connect or pay the bill. Right?
Yeah, so the assessment is an assessment. It comes to you as a bill. You get the choice of how you want to facilitate that with the tax office, but ultimately there is a lien that will go against the property if it's not paid. Yeah. Yes.
So, you said there's 11,800 properties
Yes.
Does this,
When the 30-year plan is done.
when the 30-year plan is
Correct.
done?
Yep, this project has about 240.
So that's all based on our current wastewater treatment plant, being able to
Yes.
handle
Correct.
that 30-year building?
That's correct. That's part of the plan. Yep.
Without having to expand or?
Well, the plant is currently undergoing renovations.
Okay.
And the plan does recognize that there will need to be expansion of the discharge of the plant. So the plant is currently being renovated to improve the nitrogen removal at the plant, a significant investment and upgrade to a state-of-the-art treatment process. And then there will need to be expansions of the disposal at later phases in the plan, which are activities that are identified in the program.
And all of the current large-scale apartment building complexes that are currently being built in town are already figured into that capacity?
Yeah, the plan considers growth, has a plan for build-out, which has not been overextended by any means by this point, and nor do we anticipate it will at this point, but certainly we need to continue to monitor that. And that's part of our adaptive management plan updates, is to make sure our assumptions for build-out that were in the plan maintain adequacy, or we don't need to make modifications as we go along. But there is significant build-out considered in the plan. We anticipated growth. Yes.
Does that change any of the zoning? Like, for example, lots that have to be a certain size, once it's running down the street?
Yeah, the question is, does the sewer running down the street change the zoning? It does not. That ultimately is a separate policy issue, which may need to be considered if there's a decision to decide to change zoning as a result. I mean, ultimately, septic systems have been de facto zoning in the Commonwealth, really, in a number of locations for a number of years, particularly in residential areas. A large amount of our community is residentially zoned, though, and most of the areas that we're sewering as part of this program are residentially zoned. But there may be the ability to add bedrooms as a result. So that's something the community may need to consider down the line if they choose to. Yep. It doesn't change it, though.
So like
Lot sizes don't change. Ultimately, lot sizes currently are the restricting factor for how big your septic system can be. That consideration does get reduced when the sewer is available. So yeah, yes, sir.
If a lot is not currently buildable,
Yep.
and it's, maybe 100 feet away from the wetlands or whatever, because of storage, can that change?
Potentially. I mean, if it's a wetland issue, probably not, because you need to be able to meet the requirements of the Conservation Commission and the Wetlands Protection Act. You'd have to talk to an engineer or environmental scientist on your particular case. If it's non-buildable, it does get handled differently for assessments. The assessment can get put off if it is in fact non-buildable, and there is a provision where if it is built in the future, there's a retroactive assessment. So they'll get you in the future. Let's put it that way. Yeah, no, they'll keep it on a list. If it gets developed in the future, there would be a retroactive assessment. Yes, sir.
You said the property hours price came under your,
Yes.
how are you doing your overall budget?
Excuse me?
How are you doing on your overall budget?
We've been under budget on every project. Correct. Yes.
We just can't hear you back here.
I understand.
Because of the noise behind, so I'm not sure what the questions were.
Okay, I can rephrase them. The question was, we're under budget on this project. How are you doing on the total program? We've been under budget on every project to date. Yes.
When you said that everybody would be mandated to connect once it's in place,
Yeah.
what is their timeframe where they?
The Board of Health's the question is, what's the time frame to be mandated to connect? The Board of Health has adopted a policy requiring 6 months.
So within 6 months
Of getting notified, yeah.
ready?
That's correct. Yes.
Is there currently a construction schedule that tells quite approximately the order of those roads, or is that?
The question is there currently a construction schedule for the order of the roads being constructed? I wish. We've been asking our contractor. We don't have a definitive schedule yet. It does tend to change throughout the construction. We do know that they anticipate the first road to be Bumps River Road. That's the current thinking, was that's where they would start in front of the collaborative property, being the low point in the system in that area, and work their way north. Once we get past winter months, they will start in Route 28 because they have a lot to do in Route 28. They're able to get into the town roadways a little sooner due to contractual requirements. Within the state highway, they have to pave at the end of every night. It's difficult for them to get pavement at the end of every night during the winter. It's really a logistical issue. So we think they'll probably start on Bumps River Road, and then once the weather breaks for the spring, they'll be in Route 28. I don't know exactly where. As far as Marquand Drive, I don't have a definitive answer. Yes, sir.
I have a property, on the corner of two roads that are affected.
Yep.
And it sounds like on the form I can put in where I want the line to be going to. It's not tied to your address, correct?
It is not. In some communities it is. We've been open to those considerations if there's a good technical reason. If it's somebody who's really just trying to not connect, and they identify that they have a project that's going to be another 10 years or something that's on the other road, which there are cases where that occurs. We review that when the request comes in. But if there's a good technical reason, it's a shorter distance. It's going to be a lot more cost effective. There's a whole bunch of trees and a buffer that has to get disturbed in between. We would consider that, yes. Yes.
I have a property in South County, the only house that's affected. But on 28, we own a fair amount of land.
Yeah.
Is it going to stay on the same side as the pump house? Or will it be mostly, how do I know where it might go?
Yeah, so in Route 28 specifically. So the question is, she has a property on South County Road. She wants to know roughly where the sewer will be in Route 28. Roughly, for the majority of the length of the project, the sewer is on the south side of Route 28.
So that is the south side.
The south side is, call it the Osterville side. Call it the Osterville side. Yeah. The South County Road side. Yes.
So you mean like where the fire station is in Centerville?
Yes. It's on that side. Correct. It's on the Mahoney side. Yeah, it's on the south. That's the south side, and that's the side of the road the sewer's going in. Yeah. That's the side of the road it went in for the Route 28 East project. It's the side we're putting in right now. And there's a practical reason for that, actually a technical reason for that. The gas company has major gas mains on the north side that we don't want to be anywhere near because they serve the whole outer Cape. The pump house will be on the other side, so we have to cross to the north side when we make that connection. But the majority of the way, it's on the south side. Yeah.
But you're going across the street for connections as well. You're just
Correct.
lower than the gas lines, I assume?
Correct. So the sewer mains that convey all the water will be on the south side. Each property, we will add a stub that go across. So on Route 28, we will have a stub that goes across to the properties that are there if they're identified in the project. Some properties on 28 are not in the project just because they have significant buffers between them and they really front on a future road, and it just makes more technical sense for them to connect there. Any additional questions, or do people want to have discussions in the? Yes.
I have four.
Oh, absolutely. Let's hear them.
For the drawing that you want by the 12th, what if you don't know where your line, the gas service and the water service are in your yard?
Give us as much information as you have, or call us, and we can come help you.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry, the question, I know there's people ever having trouble hearing. The question was, if I don't know where my gas service is or some of the other information that we're asking for on the site, we don't necessarily expect everybody to. We're just asking for as much information as possible. If you need some help filling out the forms, give us a call. We'll arrange a time to assist you.
Okay. Related to that, can you drive over these pipes? Can you put it in under a gravel driveway and be able to drive over it safely?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. They'll be well below the ground. They have to be a minimum of 3 feet below the ground.
Okay.
In a lot of cases, they'll be deeper. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I live right on 28. While there's construction going on, will I be able to get into my house and out of my house, or do I have to go somewhere?
Yeah, all properties will be able to get into and out of their house during construction. If we're literally right in front of your driveway for that particular night, we may need to make some arrangements in advance, which is why we have inspectors out on site. But It may be a case where the road's closed just down the street and you actually can't go right, but you have to go left, and you may be inconvenienced by which way you have to leave the property, but you will be able to access your property at all times. We have to make arrangements. It's contractually required in the contract.
Okay. And are there any ballpark numbers for what this is gonna cost individual homeowners? Because if we have 6 months to hook up, I have no extra money.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. Is there an estimate as to what it's going to cost to hook up? I don't give out estimates for what your connection cost is going to be, and there's a reason why. Everybody's is different because and everybody's can range quite a bit. We've had some that were $4,000 to $5,000. We've had some that were 15, 20, 25, etc. And it really depends upon where is your house located in relation to the road. What do you have to cross on your property? What other conditions exist on your property that's going to result in additional cost? And that's why we encourage you to talk to multiple contractors. We have vetted all these contractors, but the pricings, we don't control their pricing. So definitely get multiple quotes. And you don't have 6 months to plan for it. It is going to be about 2.5 years from now when the actual notice to connect is going to be. So you can have those discussions with contractors in advance so you can start planning, because we can provide the documents to them so that they know what they're going to be connecting into, so they can give you a quote now. It may change over time slightly because everything gets more expensive, right? But you can start planning now.
What happens if you just can't afford it?
Yeah, so you can request an extension from the Board of Health. There are certain considerations that they will make for extensions, and there are financial opportunities for certain conditions. But at the end of there are loan options through the Aqua Fund that are available.
Just a loan, not a grant.
Correct.
So I have to be able to afford it no matter what.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So in those connections, is it the town that is going to be letting property owners know, like, your house sits down, you are going to have a pumping system of some sort to get it uphill, or is that going to be up to every homeowner when they hire one of these private contractors to come in? Because many of these homes are going to need a pump within their own system.
Yeah.
To get it into the street.
That's correct. So the properties that we know will need pumps, when contact is made, we certainly will tell you that. We have, on past projects, sent out letters to property owners where we said, actually, as we're approaching the end of construction, we've said, your property is a property we think is highly likely may need a grinder pump. Here are the resources you should go look at. We do provide the first grinder pump to the contractor to install. And then once the contractor has it and has installed it, it's the property owner's obligation at that point. But we do buy the first one, which is not an insignificant expense.
And are property owners explained to that, like, you need electricity?
Yes.
So if your power goes out and you do not have a generator,
Correct.
you will not be flushing your toilet?
Well, you can flush your toilet, but you have to minimize your water use.
Correct.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that pump does not work.
Correct. There's storage in the pump,
Correct.
but there's not storage for multiple days. You're not going to want to take a long shower, for instance. But you can use your essential facilities for a short duration.
And that pump might require an electrical upgrade, so you have to see what your electrical.
You do have to consult your contractor, who will need to consult an electrician.
Generator, that might require an upgrade.
It's possible. And these considerations are outlined in the homeowner's connection guide, and we have additional resources for grinder pumps specifically, and we also have folks who do nothing but help people with sewer connections. So we can also provide additional information. Any additional questions? All right, thank you all for your time tonight. I'm very glad to have this great of a turnout. As always, ask us questions.